Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. On October 7th at the Monroe County Board of Health meeting, Health Director Penny Cottle updated the board that Monroe County is now 60% vaccinated and is back in the yellow advisory category.
We are officially in a yellow advisory this week. Our cases per 100,000 were 144, and our positivity rate was still under 5%. So that was good news that we were officially in yellow advisory. Again, still a ways to go before we're out of that high transmission.
Board member Ashley Craner followed up on the Seven Oaks school compliance with the mask mandate. Cottle said that they might not be compliant at this time. The school sent home a face covering exemption form that gives parents the option to decide if their child wears a mask when participating in an indoor activity that is inconsistent with wearing a mask. County Attorney Margie Rice said that they are communicating with Seven Oaks to make sure they understand that the exemption for activities that are not conducive to mask wearing are intended to be cardiovascular activities and not educational ones.
We did send follow-up communication. I sent follow-up communication to Dr. Shipp to let him know that the board's intention with that was that it was physical or cardiovascular activity like recess or gymnasium activity, and we did not consider education or reading to be inconsistent with wearing a mask. So invited him to attend tonight. He chose not to, and we'll continue to follow up and ensure that they're compliant. And if they're not, we'll follow up.
Thanks, Margie. I was just losing my words on the.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah, so Penny and I have talked about it, and we certainly are not trying to be hostile towards Seven Oaks, but we are trying to be really clear because it's been our history with them is that I don't think we always are communicating well. We don't always understand things the way that they do, and so we're just trying to be really, really clear and direct with them. But it may be wise the next time you revisit the health order to clarify that exception so that there is no confusion.
The board also unanimously approved their contract with Indiana Recovery Alliance to extend the Indiana Syringe Service Program for another 2 years. The next meeting will be held on October 21st. The Monroe County Election Board met on October 7th to discuss redrawing precinct maps and voting space allocation. Monroe County GIS Coordinator Jared Ike Miller updated the board on the re-precincting changes necessary based off of the 2020 census. Allen County Circuit Court Clerk Chris Nancaro was invited to speak to the board. He highlighted the importance of voting center locations being done in a nonpartisan manner.
Election preparation and security should never be a partisan issue at all. Nicole and I are from different parties, but we ultimately share the same responsibilities and duties to the public regarding the election process. When you administer elections, there's a variety of rise regardless of the political parties involved or who's administering the election. For instance, the theme I'll talk about is voter convenience. This can be enhanced by having everything under one roof, which is my understanding of what your county's trying to do is trying to get everything kind of a one-stop shop for everything, more space, one roof if possible. And I'll talk about how that you can tie that into early voting to enhance the voter convenience involved when it comes to elections. There's also considerations regarding accountability, efficiency, operations, logistics, supervision and security of all your equipment, and supervision of poll workers. And Beth will elaborate more on that during her portion. And as you know, in today's political climate, we can do 99 things right, and the one thing that goes wrong can make the news or the national news and jeopardize the trust in the election. And when you have multiple locations for storage and training and this and that, the movement of the people, the equipment, the supplies among the multiple locations, it increases that likelihood of that one thing that goes wrong.
President of the Monroe County Commissioners, Julie Thomas, articulated her thoughts on how to move forward with making a decision by working together.
I think a good place for us to start is to start with what we agree with, what we all agree on. And I've not heard anybody say anything different, which is we want voting that's fair and accessible to everyone. We want to make this process as smooth and as easy and secure All of those words, and we all agree on that. And we also know that we need to find a solution quickly. So we all agree on that. So let's take those two things and build a consensus from there as to how to move forward. And in the spirit of collaboration and moving forward, we really want to convene a working group as soon as possible. We've offered before, but we'll be very specific this time. This is an important conversation. It needs its own agenda and its own time and place. And we have randomly picked 3 days and times next week when we're available, Monday at noon or Tuesday or Thursday at 1. If any of those times work, great. And if not, Ms. Purdy has agreed to send out a doodle poll to this esteemed board so that we can all get 1 day and time set on our calendars and we can meet. We are currently utilizing this working group model for our criminal justice reform study group. It is on Zoom. It is totally transparent to the public. We don't take public comment. That can come when decisions have to be made, which is later. But it's a time to really be focused and transparent in discussions about facilities and all of that.
She said that the commissioners are all right with renting out the Monroe County Convention Center for a long-term voting location, but she made clear that the commissioners would like to have satellite sites since not everyone in the county lives in the city. The next election board meeting will be held on November 4th. On October 7th, the Ellettsville Plan Commission discussed the voluntary annexation of 5010 North Lakeview Drive. The petitioner, Kevin Ferris, would like to expand his existing business, Ferris Storage Incorporated. He is hoping to have the land zoned as a C3 commercial classification. Director of Planning and Development, Kevin Talati, explained the voluntary annexation on behalf of the petitioner, who was not in attendance at the meeting.
Reason for annexation is the petitioner would at some point in the future like to expand his current storage business onto this lot. Staff recommends a favorable recommendation to the town council. Probably should have said that earlier. This will just be a recommendation to the council with a recommended zoning. And this has been properly noticed in the mail and in the Herald Times. I said he's requesting it to be zone C3, which is the purple color and surrounds it on 3 sides, and everything to the north is still in the county. So it would match the zoning directly around it.
Commissioner Terry Baker asked if there was a condition in the zoning laws to ensure that there is a buffer zone between residential and commercial zoned areas. Talati explained that any structure would have to be at least 20 feet from the property line. Baker also expressed concern about allowing outdoor storage and remarked it could dissuade individuals from moving to Ellettsville.
Well, the last time we had a storage thing before us, one of our conditions was no outside storage. And, you know, we start having a lot of the outside storage and we're going to end up having it look like a junkyard.
The commission members unanimously decided to table the decision until the next meeting so that Ferris could answer questions himself. The next meeting will be held on November 4th. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
For hurting families in Monroe County.
A contribution to children who are vulnerable and in need of an advocate.
A staff that goes above and beyond to support and advocate for children in need of services.
The web of remarkable people who are dealing with difficult situations.
So many young people that are in need of help and trying to find a stable family, a stable place to live. Without the causes to make that happen, many of them would be unable to find a good home.
I love being that voice for the child who can't speak for themselves in court.
It takes me out of my comfort zone, and it also helps others.
CASA means supporting our community.
Being a CASA is making sure that your village is healthy and whole, and that the children in your village will someday be able to help the village as well.
a child who doesn't have a voice, maybe in their family situation or a school situation, now has a voice that can advocate for them.
I really enjoy working with children that are going through difficult times and letting them know that I care about their future.
We are privileged with our charge of representing the best interest of children. And so therefore we can advocate for exactly what they need without restriction, focusing on their best interest.
I want to repair the world one child at a time.
Welcome back to CATSweek. At the October 6th meeting, the Bloomington City Council approved an ordinance which would give council members the ability to limit the duration of city council sessions to 5.5 hours or after midnight. The ordinance was proposed by council member Steve Volan, who expressed concern over the council's inability to adjourn at a reasonable hour.
The idea isn't about who triggers it. The idea is that we all commit to limiting the length of our meetings overall, because it benefits no one to go to deliberate that late. The decisions are not better that late. They can always be moved to the next day.
According to Volan's explanation of the ordinance, it would take one council member to make the motion to adjourn and only one other council member to second the motion. Council member Isabel Piedmont Smith said she supported the ordinance.
I think it's a wise move to make it more likely that we will limit our time in deliberation in council meetings, because I do feel strongly that the quality of our decision making declines as the evening wears on, and it is also more fair to city staff and to members of the public if we end in a timely manner and resume any remaining deliberations at another point in time.
President Jim Sims did not support the ordinance and commented that he believed the council was already equipped to adjourn without this new amendment.
I am opposed to it. I still do not see that this legislation is needed or necessary. I don't see that it does anything that the council can do without this legislation. We have different tools in order to end meetings, and any council member, as I mentioned earlier, can move to adjourn at any time.
The proposal to put limitations on the length of city council meetings passed 7-2-0. The next meeting will be on October 13th. At the Monroe County Commissioners meeting on October 6th, Health Director Penny Cottle shared that the county has reached a 60% vaccination rate.
Finally, we hit 60% of our eligible population is fully vaccinated. So that's a milestone for us. It is one that we had hoped we would meet back early summer. It took us 3 weeks to go from 59% to 60%. So I say that because we don't want to take that kind of time for future increases. We're happy that we hit that 60% mark, but we do need to be higher than that to really get the impact that we need.
Cottle also shared that the county is now in the yellow advisory category for COVID-19 cases. Emergency Management Deputy Director Kate Petroline shared that October is Fire Prevention Month. She shared a few safety tips in collaboration with the fire department for residents to keep in mind.
A few things just to keep in mind is just to be aware of the practices that you do in your daily outs and abouts. So I know that we're getting to the holiday season and we're putting up Halloween lights or about to be Christmas lights. Just remember that extension cords are considered for temporary use. And those Christmas lights and Halloween lights are considered extension cords. So it would be recommended not to have those on for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because again, they are for temporary use. And if those extension cords look like they're kind of bent in certain places, or you see some of that internal wiring, you might need to think about getting another extension cord. And also, when you're doing your laundry, make sure you clean out that dryer vent every time you use your dryer. I'm going to prevent any fires coming from that area. And also make sure you're doing candle safety. Make sure the candle that you're lighting is in a nice fire preventative jar.
Monroe County resident Julie Roberts shared her concern about changing the election center location during public comment.
I am really excited about our election central. I was astonished to move to the point of tears how wonderful their handling of the pandemic was. I was having a health crisis at the time, and I felt safe and I felt heard. I was able to get an absentee ballot. I was able to get in and out. And I have learned about some of the proposed changes, and I just have some concerns. And first of all, I worked downtown for 10 years, just a block from the Napa Auto Parts location. I had to park in that parking lot for a couple of years when the garage was messed up. I took the bus, so I was in and out of the bus depot across the street. It's an extremely congested and hazardous. It's like playing Frogger across the street there. The parking lot is a mess. So I think there's a safety concern with people being there in that location if we move Election Central over there. I also feel like confusion is a big thing. I have run for public office. I'm a city employee. I know how to use the internet. And I still struggle to find my polling place. So that's why I love going to Election Central, because I always know that it's there. So moving it around, I know is going to cause problems.
Assistant Director of the Planning Department, Jackie Nestor-Jellin, explained proposed zoning ordinance changes for home-based businesses and occupations.
Then on the home-based business and the home occupation, we are going to be changing the condition 16 is going to be removed as part of this use. Some of the confusion with these two uses is that we do get applications for home-based business or home occupation that includes outdoor storage. And so we're trying to clean this up a little bit in our ordinance and allow for a different avenue for people that have maybe off-site work or outdoor storage. So for home-based business and home occupation, we're making it so that it's more clear that the work must be conducted inside and that there is not going to be permissions to have outdoor storage along with these two uses.
Commissioner Lee Jones commented that she appreciated them for making the zoning permits for home-based businesses more clear, especially since working from home is becoming more popular as of late. The motion was approved 2-0. The next meeting will be held on October 13th. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying.
I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me.
But with Girls Inc. in my corner,
there for me every day,
Believing in me, showing me what's possible,
I can be strong enough to respect myself and my body.
to say I can rather than I can't,
to say no with no apology,
To be a leader.
to finish school,
to own my future.
To break the cycle.
Girls Inc. believes every girl can succeed. That's why the trained professionals of Girls Inc. are there for our girls every day, supporting, mentoring, and guiding them in a safe, girls-only environment. Building bonds that last for years and change that lasts a lifetime. Girls Inc. gives girls the tools they need to boldly face challenges, to resist peer pressure, to be the first in their families to go to college, to beat the odds. With Girls Inc. in her corner, every girl can be healthy, confident, and resilient. She'll do more than dream about her potential. She'll reach it.
With you in my corner,
With you in my corner, I will not be another statistic.
I will fight for myself.
For my future.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc. Inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold.
Welcome back to CATSweek. On October 4th, the Bloomington Redevelopment Commission approved project funding for professional communications and marketing assistance for the IU Health Bloomington Hospital redevelopment site. Economic and Sustainable Development Director Alex Crowley explained their preference for professional help on the project, saying that the scale is too large to do a good job without external assistance and experience.
As that project gears up, it's going to be a very substantial and complex project, as you might imagine. It's going to take a lot of resources. It is a once-in-a-century project, I think, as the mayor likes to say. So I think we are all have all been discussing and coming to terms with the fact that we're going to need a fair amount of professional outside help on certain aspects of the project to really make sure that it's as successful as possible. So one of those is a communication strategy, which will have a sort of variety of different needs. Ultimately, if you think of communications and marketing generally of the site, but it will start with things like perhaps naming the neighborhood, which as much as we all like to call it the hospital redevelopment site, that doesn't really roll off the tongue.
Commissioner Nick Koppas questioned why the communications contract was necessary and why the public was not being involved in the naming process instead.
Why do we feel that it's necessary to have an outside party come in? Isn't this something that we could, we're literally, it's very rare anymore in our city that we have the opportunity for the public to have an opportunity to name a new area. Did we think about possibly running this through a public process? I understand. I lived through the CMP, I lived through the UDO. I understand the public process, but this is a little bit different. This is us having the opportunity for public input in creating a new neighborhood. And so was that considered instead of us going to a naming and branding contractor?
Crowley responded that the contract would help with the development of the site, which could include public input.
Just to be clear, we have not outsourced the naming to them, and we'll just accept whatever they come up with. This is actually, in fact, going to be a contract to help with that engagement strategy. We recognize not only is Bloomington heavily engaged in everything it does, but in this particular case, given the importance of this project in the grand scheme of things, they're going to help us really gather that, process it. It's really bringing in a firm that can help facilitate that. And I should also note that one of the things we discussed was the relative merit of bringing in someone from outside of Bloomington versus resources we have inside of Bloomington. And we are going to be asking them and requiring them to leverage local resources as part of the process.
The commissioners voted to approve the funding unanimously. The next meeting will be held on October 18th. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.